Welcome to the Recommended Daily Value Podcast, your daily dose into the health and wellness world.
Welcome back to the Recommended Daily Value Podcast, where we dive into everything health, fitness, and nutrition related 5 days a week in 5 minutes or less. This podcast is brought to you by Umzu, and I'm your host, Tyler Woodward. If you're not already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, because today's topic of the day is my number one tip for bulking. So a little something about me. The reason I got into health, nutrition, hormones, all that good stuff was because I wasn't gaining muscle, or at least at the rate I wanted to be. And believe it or not, in my lifting time, I've gained over 50 pounds, most of which I'd like to think is muscle. But hey, it's bulking season, so it doesn't hurt to have a little extra cushion for the pushing. Needless to say, I've been through my fair share of bulking phases, so I just want to give you all some of my best advice for bulking. And it's nothing revolutionary, but in my opinion, the most important thing you can do for your bulk is to take it as slow and steady as possible. Many people have a tendency to come off a cut and just want to go to town and end up eating everything in sight, which is fun, but it might not be the most ideal situation, including myself over and over again. And this is a mistake. Muscle building is a very slow process, and the process just gets slower and slower as you progress in your muscle building journey. Realistically, you want your bulk to last as long as possible, as eating more calories and nutrients provides you with the nutrients you need not only for building muscle, but also maintaining healthy levels of all the protective hormones, which tend to tank the longer and more aggressively that you cut weight as your stress hormones rise. And if you think about it in terms of a timeline, let's say you've got a year to get into the best shape of your life. Most conservative estimates say you can gain around 1 kilogram or 2.2 pounds per month of muscle, particularly as a beginner. But this rate, again, inherently declines as you gain more and more muscle. At the high end, some estimates say you can gain 4 pounds of muscle in the first couple of months of lifting. But the more rapidly you gain weight, the more fat is going to come along with it. So let's take 4 hypothetical scenarios. Scenario 1, you gain about half a pound of muscle each month. Scenario 2, you gain a pound a month. Scenario 3, you gain 2 pounds a month. And scenario 4, you gain 4 pounds per month. And let's say you bulk for the next 9 months. In scenario 1, you gain 4.5 pounds. Scenario 2, 9 pounds. Scenario 3, 18 pounds. And scenario 4, 36 pounds, which is obviously a huge spectrum. And while you very likely gained the most muscle in scenario 4, you also gained the most fat. So you'll have to spend the most time cutting, which will also likely result in some more muscle loss. Scenario 3, you'll probably gain pretty much the same amount of muscle as scenario 4, but half the fat. And you'll have to spend a lot less time cutting, and as a result, probably won't lose as much muscle. Scenario 2, you'll gain less muscle than in scenario 3 or 4, but way less fat. So much so that you may not even need to cut at all. And if you do cut, it won't be for very long. In scenario 1, you'll gain the least amount of muscle, but you'll probably gain very little fat and may even recomp a bit and lose fat as you gain muscle. So you may not need to cut at all, and you can potentially continue to bulk almost indefinitely. What this illustrates is that there is a sweet spot somewhere along the spectrum where we can maximize muscle growth while minimizing fat gain. Ideally, the goal is to be able to bulk for as long as possible and have to cut for as little time as possible so we can maximize muscle growth. What I typically recommend is aiming for somewhere in between 1 to 2 pounds per month. Ideally starting off toward the higher end of the spectrum and tapering off as you get deeper and deeper into the bulk. And in a perfect world, I think we can periodize your workouts with your diet and introduce small recomposition and fat loss phases so you can really maximize your muscle growth while minimizing fat gain. But that's a topic for another episode. Well, that's it for this episode. So remember, when it comes to bulking, slow and steady wins the race. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button and to share with a friend. And remember, these opinions are my own, based on my own research and experiences, and is not medical advice. Till next time, be good.